All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear. I see a few notes in the chat that you weren't able to hear, so there probably wasn't anybody talking yet. So let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. Welcome to this webinar this morning, focused on the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan and what small business owners need to know. My name is Crystal Irons, and I am the director of the Missouri Small Business Development Center at Missouri State University. And really excited to have everybody on this morning and appreciate, again, you taking the time to join us. A few quick Zoom meeting tips before we get started. Please look and make sure that you have your mics muted. I can control some of that, but if you'll help me, that'd be great. We get a lot of feedback if people have their mics unmuted. We'll be taking questions throughout the program, so feel free to put those in the chat box. We'll take some information that our presenters have for us, and then we'll run through those questions and answer as many as we possibly can. I will follow up with everyone if you registered via our website on our training calendar. We have your email address, so I will follow up with everyone and make sure that you have the slides for the webinar today. And then we will also work to put our recording online as well and share that with you. Please also know that we have another webinar today at noon with Alice Akers-Arney to talk to us about how we can work with our insurance agents at this difficult time and ways that we can help save some of our operating costs, but not put our business at any undue risk. I'm really pleased this morning to have two representatives with us from the U.S. Small Business Administration Springfield branch office. Ron Bassnett is with us, and Lisa Zimmerman will be hopping on here shortly, and they're going to both share more information with us about the Small Business Administration's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. But before we jump into that, I just want to remind all of you, first and foremost, that the Missouri Small Business Development Center, we are here to help you. We have consultants across the state, many of which I know are on this call today. So thank you guys for jumping on as well. Through this disaster, but even after that, we're here to help business owners at every stage, from startup to growth to succession. We do that through one-on-one business consulting that is always confidential and at no additional fee to our clients. We have a variety of training seminars, and we help our clients really on a lot of different topics. At Missouri State University, we have a lot of course projects that we work with our students on. And so if you're ever in need of something, please let us know. And we're always kind of keeping a list of things that we can do for course projects with our students. As I mentioned, we have colleagues around the state. The Missouri Small Business Development Center is part of a nationwide and statewide program. We exist through funding from the U.S. Small Business Administration, and here in Missouri through a partnership with University of Missouri Extension. Our office here at Missouri State University serves 16 counties throughout Southwest Missouri. In Springfield, we serve as part of the eFactory's business support programs. We have 3 offices around Southwest Missouri in Springfield, Forsyth, and West Plains, on our West Plains campus. If you're on the call from another part of the state, we can still help you. So you can visit our sbdc.missouri.edu website and find a center that is closest to you. Our consultants at the Missouri State Center are taking appointments daily to meet with small business owners to talk about this disaster loan program, but also look at other options and things that you could be doing as you try to make decisions through this time. So please visit our website, sbdc.missouri.state.edu. But if you are not from the Southwest region, you might visit our statewide website to make an appointment with a local center. If you're in the Southwest region, please feel free to reach out and make an appointment directly with us on our website. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to Ron Bassnett, again with the U.S. Small Business Administration, to share information with us about the disaster loan program available to Missouri businesses right now.
Thank you, Crystal, and good morning, everyone. My name is Ram Basnet of the U.S. Small Business Administration, Springfield, Missouri branch office. We are responsible for SBA program delivery in 28 Southwest Missouri counties. I want to start off with two comments. The first one is on the website, the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan website. SBA is working diligently to meet customer demand for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and make the process as user-friendly and easy as possible to you. As we make changes, we will have update periods where things will be in flux. While this is happening right now, we still want to make sure you have a way to fill out and submit your application. If you're having issues accessing the website, try clearing your browsing history, the data or cache. Also, as things are improved, we'll update you accordingly with the new information. Right now, you have two choices. One is to upload fill out forms via the Dropbox function. The other one is to mail physical copies. We strongly encourage to upload those files as opposed to mailing them. The next comment I want to make, we have been getting a lot of phone calls about the pending legislation. We do not have any information on this. However, what I can tell you is that if you get approved for the economic injury disaster loan and you find yourself with better alternatives down the road, you can simply deny the loan without any penalty. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so the U.S. Small Business Administration is offering designated states and territories low-interest federal disaster loans for working capital to small businesses suffering substantial economic injury as a result of the coronavirus. The loan is commonly called EIDL, EIDL. Small businesses located anywhere in the state of Kansas and Missouri are currently eligible. Eventually, this loan will be available to small businesses nationwide, including U.S. territories. Please note that the situation is fluid and changes are ongoing for loan submission and approval process. There are some things in the slides that have already changed, and we'll address those as we move along. Basically, we are trying to provide a high-level overview of the economic injury disaster loan. The online application portal will have the most up-to-date information. In essence, we are trying to provide you the information that we have given the scope of our roles. Next slide, please. So what businesses are eligible to apply? So SBA's economic injury disaster loans or working capital loans are available for small businesses, small agricultural cooperatives, small aquaculture businesses, which is an exception, and most private nonprofit organizations. This includes businesses directly affected by the disaster, businesses that offer services directly related to the businesses in the declaration, other businesses indirectly related to the industry that are likely to be harmed by losses in their community. For the disaster loan purposes, definition of a small business is based on the North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS codes. SBA has a table of small business size standards, which will be shared with you. If you're attending this webinar, we'll share that link with you. It has a comprehensive list of size standards for all industries. The size standard for some industries are based on average revenue, whereas others are based on number of employees. For example, small business and manufacturing industry are considered small if they have less than 500 employees. Next slide, please. So what is the criteria for a loan approval, right? So this program is a loan. It is not a grant. It is a loan. So as such, credit history, applicants must have credit history acceptable to SBA. Repayment, SBA must determine that the applicant business has the ability to repay the SBA loan. Eligibility, the applicant business must be physically located in a declared county. and suffer working capital losses due to the declared disaster, not due to a downturn in the economy or other regions. So the entire state of Kansas and Missouri are currently eligible, so this should not be of concern. Next slide. So here we're trying to provide some insights on the loan amount and interest rates. So eligible entities may qualify for loans up to $2 million. These are per business, given the business is in one umbrella. So if there are several businesses in one umbrella, that would be one loan worth $2 million max. The interest rates for disaster are 3.75% fixed for small businesses and 2.75% fixed for nonprofit organizations. With the term, it says up to 30 years, but it's actually 30 years across the board. Eligibility for these working capital loans are based on size. We discussed that already, and type of business and its financial resources. So in other words, if you have adequate capital, you might not be eligible for these loans. So how can I use these loan funds? These working capital loans may be used to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills that could have been paid had the disaster not occurred. The loans are not intended to replace lost sales or profits or for expansion. The economic injury disaster loans can be used to pay off existing bridge loans and lines of credit. The loan proceeds cannot be used to refinance long-term debts. Next slide, please. So what are collateral requirements? So for loans under $25,000, there is no requirement for collateral. For loans more than $25,000, SBA takes collateral. I know the slide says SBA takes real estate as collateral when it is available. However, there is an update on this. SBA is no longer requiring real estate or personal residence as collateral. Only business assets are used as collateral. For example, furniture and fixtures, accounts receivable, etc. SBA will not decline a loan for lack of collateral, but requires borrowers to place what is available. Next, please. So now here we are trying to talk about what kind of small businesses can apply. So some examples of eligible industries include, but are not limited to the following: hotels, recreational facilities, charter boats, manufacturers, sport vendors, owners of rental property, restaurants, retailers, souvenir shops, travel agencies, and wholesalers. So what other criteria is involved? The applicant business must have a physical presence in the declared disaster area. An applicant's economic presence alone is in a declared area does not meet this requirement. The physical presence must be tangible and significant. Merely having a PO box in the disaster area would not qualify as a physical presence. Next slide, please. So the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Funds come directly from the US Treasury. SBA Disaster Office is the entity that handles processing from start to finish. Unlike other SBA products, economic injury disaster loans are not made by banks. Applicants do not go through a bank to apply, I just mentioned that. Instead, apply directly to SBA Disaster Assistance Program at disasterloan.sba.gov. There is no cost to apply. There is no obligation to take the loan if offered. The maximum unsecured loan amount is $25,000. We already discussed this. Applicants can have an existing SBA disaster loan and still qualify for an economic injury disaster loan for these disasters, but the loans cannot be consolidated. A key point here, if a small business has existing disaster loans, they are automatically deferred through December 31, 2020. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are some forms. The forms depend on what kind of business you have, and then also individual circumstances as well. But in general, you can find these forms on the website. There is a completed SBA loan application form, commonly known as Form 5, the tax information authorization, or IRS Form 450, 4560, complete copies of most recent federal income tax return. So there has been a change in this. Most recent federal income tax return is currently waived for small businesses, but not for private nonprofits. In other words, most recent federal income tax return is not an economic injury disaster loan application requirement for a small business. However, a loan officer might require it in the future. And there are a schedule of liabilities, personal financial statements, and then again, other information may be requested by the loan officer down the road. Although a paper application and forms are acceptable, filing electronically is easier, faster, and more accurate. We strongly encourage people to use that upload tool instead of mailing. So there is also a link available to get access to paper forms. This will give you an idea of what information is needed when you are ready to fill out application online when the website is up and running. So these are some other information that may be requested. These are on a case-by-case basis, depending upon the loan amount and what kind of business you have and so forth. Some examples are complete copy, including all schedules of the most recent federal income tax returns for principals, general partners, or managing member, and affiliates. If most recent federal income tax return has not been filed, a year-end profit and loss statement and balance sheet for that tax year, current year-to-date profit and loss statement, and then there might be some additional filing requirements as well, which would provide monthly sales figures. Next slide, please. So what entities are not eligible for these loans? Agricultural enterprises. If the primary activity of the business, including its affiliates, is as defined in Section 18B1 of the Small Business Act, neither the business nor its affiliates are eligible for economic injury disaster loans. Agricultural enterprises should work with Farm Service Agency. Religious organizations are not eligible. Charitable organizations, gambling concerns, casinos and racetracks. Churches are not eligible for economic injury disaster loan, but they are for physical disasters. Next, please. So how to apply? So we are currently working on the online interactive version of this loan. Again, the website is down. However, you can still apply via uploading fill out forms. If you go to disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA, it should take you to it should route you to a place where it has a list of all the forms that are required for small businesses. Once you fill out those forms, there is a tool to upload all those forms. If the tool is not working, you also have an option to mail, and the physical mailing address is available on the website. Disaster loan information and application forms. It can also be obtained by calling the customer service center. Any questions specifically related to your individual circumstances, we strongly encourage to call SBA Office of Disaster Assistance Customer Service Center. The phone number is 1-800-659-2955. Again, the number is 1-800-659-2955. There is also an email address. It is called Disaster Customer Service, one word, disaster customer service at sba.gov. And then we are hearing some issues with people using different browsers. So please use Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer. Some users are experiencing issues with Chrome. SBA is currently revamping online infrastructure and customer service department. Please bear with us in the challenging times. The non-peak hours for the online application forms are 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Next slide, please. Okay, so there is free assistance available with SBA resource partners with regards to reconstructing financial records, financial statements, submitting the loan application. You can find these resources. You can go to sba.gov/local-assistance, and once you put your zip code, the nearest resource will be returned to you. sba.gov/local-assistance. The SBDC network has extensive experience working with disaster loans. Please work with your nearest SBDC. For many on this call, Crystal's team can be able to provide assistance in terms of filling out loan application forms and reconstructing some of those financial records as well. A few more information here. Applicants who have not complied with the terms of previous SBA loans may not be eligible for these loans. Application deadline for this loan is December 21, 2020. The first payment on the economic injury loan issued due to the coronavirus will be automatically deferred for 1 year. So you do not have to make any payments until after a year of receiving those funds. Next slide, please. A few more information here. Recheck the filing requirements to ensure that all the needed information is submitted. The biggest reason for delays in processing is due to missing information. Make sure to complete all filing requirements before submitting the application and forms. If more funds are needed, applicants can submit supporting documents and a request for an increase. If less funds are needed, applicants can request a reduction in the loan amount. If the loan request is denied, the applicant will be given up to 6 months in which to provide new information and submit a written request for reconsideration. One important update here is there is no field to request a specific loan amount in the online application tool. SBA determines that based on your application. In essence, we are looking at 6 months worth of working capital loan. All right, next slide, please. So over the last few days, we have maintained a list of frequently asked questions. We would like to go through these first before taking any Q&As. Our hope is most of the questions you might have will be addressed during the frequently asked questions. If you have any specific questions regarding your personal circumstances, we strongly encourage you to call the SBA Office of Disaster Assistance customer service line, 1-800-659-2955, or you can also email them at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. Now, Lisa Zimmerman, the Lender Relations Specialist at the Springfield, Missouri branch office, will go over the frequently asked questions, and then after that, we'll take any questions you might have. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa.
All right, good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Crystal. All right. Well, I'm going to just go over, as Ron mentioned, some of the frequently asked questions. Some of these things he's already covered, but these are the things people are kind of having the most trouble with. So the most common question is, how long does the process take? And what they are saying right now is they're processing as quickly as they can. As Ron mentioned, it's a first come, first served basis. We do have the entire nation plus 5 territories that qualify for this loan product. So please, as Ron mentioned, bear with us. We're trying to get the website where it will handle all of the traffic it's seeing. but they are getting them processed as quick as they can. There's already been several $1 million worth of loans approved, so we know that they're working quickly. We get questions on collateral. Again, Ron mentioned if it's a loan of less than $25,000, no collateral would be needed. However, if it's over $25,000, they are only going to look at your business assets for collateral. So you wouldn't need to pledge personal property, your personal home, all of those things. This is going to save time in the processing because of not requiring appraisals, business valuations, things of that matter. This loan is not, I know I've seen some questions in the chat here, this loan is not a product, even though it's 3.75 for 30 years fixed. You're not able to take your existing loans and refinance them with this product. We wouldn't have the capacity to do that. That would be lots and lots of money. It will help pay those loan payments monthly, but you cannot refinance entire loans into this loan. If you have an existing disaster loan, this is super important to hear. You don't need to do a single thing. That's automatically going to be deferred until the end of 2020, and there's no paperwork required by you. If you have an existing SBA loan, then please communicate with your lender. They have some options available to them that we're training lenders every single day now. So they are getting lots and lots of information on options that they will have available to them in the next few days and weeks. So just keep in contact. I know we were on a call yesterday, and the lenders we had on that call were saying that they were reaching out to their customers, but please get in contact with your lender in order to see what they can do. There is not a cap on the number of loans or dollars on the EIDL loan program. The cap per business is $2 million. So if you have, I've seen some questions in here, if you have multiple businesses and they are all under the same umbrella, then you would file one application. If you have multiple businesses under separate umbrellas, then each can stand alone and have their own application. You will need to create a new login for each business. You can't have the one login and have multiple applications under the same login. Let's see, the interest rate is 3.75 for for-profits and 2.75 for not-for-profits. Those are both 30-year fixed with the automatic 12-month deferment. So you're not gonna have to make a payment on this for a year. Also, this declaration, as Ron mentioned, typically disaster declarations go for 9 months. But this will be extended as based on need. So if they need to go out further than 9 months or the end of the year, they'll be able to do that. Also, if you receive, if you apply and you're contacted that you've been approved for the loan, and a few months down the road, that amount isn't going to suffice, you see there are other liabilities that you've missed or you hadn't considered, you can ask for a modification. You do not need to fill an entire new application out. When you get your approval paperwork, it will talk about how to request a modification. You can do that more than one time. Again, it will be based on your liability needs. So one of the changes, and I think I saw a question in the chat in regards to 1099, and I'll address those in a minute. But if you take an owner draw, hopefully you do. We want you to be paying yourself. That makes your business live longer. then please include the owner draw either in management fees or in payroll. That would be where you would include that amount, and it can be considered. Keep in mind, they are going to be looking at your tax transcripts for the last 3 years if you had those. So if that number is extremely exaggerated, that's something that's going to be a red flag to them. So we want to make sure everyone gets the help they need, but we also want people to be realistic. Let's see. An important aspect of this is that at this point, I know there are a lot of things being talked about on television, on Facebook, social media. There is no forgiveness on this loan at this time. So if you take out this loan, remember that we utilize the U.S. Treasury as our collection department. They will expect you to pay it back. It is deferred for the 12 months to give businesses a chance to get back on their feet. But after that, they will want you to start making payments. Okay. One of the frequently asked questions, how does a business define an impact or loss? What is damage based on an economic downturn? So again, this goes back to the 2202 form that you'll fill out. It talks about what are the bills that you're still having to pay, and we do consider payroll as one of those bills. Do you pay business insurance? You're going to need to keep the lights on. You're going to need to, if you have a building lease, you are going to need to continue to pay that. Hopefully you have an accountant and you're going to need to keep paying them. That's going to be an important thing. So all of those would be considered any liability that you do not have sales or revenue coming in to cover that cost. That's what they're talking about in that aspect. As far as we've had the question for an economic injury disaster loan, what are the business obligations and what is looked at for underwriting? As Ron mentioned, the biggest thing that is generating denials is that people are just not completing the application. Folks, this is not the time to go back and forth. It's kind of a they're moving through them as quickly as possible. So make sure on your end, when you're submitting that application, every box is filled and checked. If it has a red asterisk by it, it is required. I know when the system was up a couple days ago, it was allowing you to move on to the next page, even if you didn't have an asterisk box filled out. So it's not checking your work. It'll let you submit an incomplete application, and that would be a reason for a denial. The disaster staff, they are trying to go through so many of these. It's just really important that you get all the information in to them that they're asking for. The second area is satisfactory credit. And a lot of people ask us, so what credit score do I need? And this isn't about a number. It is more about what has happened prior to this economic disaster. Or were you paying your bills? Do you have delinquent credit cards? Are you in foreclosure? Which is another important point to bring up. If you are in the middle of a divorce or any type of legal action that would affect the structure of your company, which if you're in the state of Missouri, even if your spouse is not on your business, this is a shared property state, so that would affect the structure of your business. So if you're in the middle of any of those things, you're probably going to get a denial on this loan. You can ask for an exception within 6 months of your denial. However, as lenders will tell you, that's a very slippery slope. Typically, you're not going to be eligible just based on any type of legal involvement at this point. Let's see. We are asked the question, the businesses don't know how long this is going to last. What is the potential for them defaulting on the economic disaster loan? When it comes to the disaster recovery, there's always going to be a degree of uncertainty on how long it may take you to get back to regular business activity and generating revenue. For this reason, we're in response to the COVID-19, that's why they're doing the 1-year automatic deferment, because we don't know how long it's going to last, but we want to make sure that we have you covered until that time is over. I think we've talked a little bit about what types of businesses qualify. Let's see. I think that's all I have. Crystal, do you have questions in the queue?
Yes, we have a whole bunch.
Great.
So first, is SBA willing to take second lien position on the business assets if an applicant already has loans in place?
Yes. And what I will say in regards to that, on a typical day, SBA loans are not based on collateral. Now, we will, if there are things that we can take as collateral, yes, we're not going to leave things on the table. But this situation is a little different. It's only looking at the big business assets. If all your business assets are currently tied up, then we would look at a second, or we would just base the loan without the collateral. But the loan determinations are not based, they're not collateral driven decisions.
And then a couple of questions around, Ron mentioned that the loans are being deferred for 1 year for payment. A couple of questions around, is interest accruing during that 1 year period?
No, it is not.
Okay. Several questions around 1099s and sole proprietors.
So, Crystal, we were told at the beginning of last week that that owner's draw couldn't be a part, and we're now being told that owner's draw can be included. So that's going to save those 1099 business, because the owner's draw is typically on a 1099. If you're a home-based business and your office is in your home, obviously SBA is not going to pay you rent on an office space in your own home, but they will look at owner's draw, and they will look at previous year's taxes to see what you've typically drawn in that and what type of liability that is to your company. So they are eligible and encouraged to apply.
And would they fill out the Form 5C, the sole proprietor?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. If someone has an S Corp and they have both a salary and take a distribution, how would that be reflected, especially on the personal financial statement?
I would mention both. Again, I would keep as consistent with your previous accounting practices and ways that you've filed in the past, because any big changes obviously are going to be more of a red flag to them. But I would think that if you've been taking both in the past, that you would be able to include both on the personal financial.
If you have installment payments, an installment payment agreement for taxes, Will this impact your ability to apply?
Yes, it will. Now, if you are delinquent on a current SBA loan or have defaulted on an SBA loan, if you have delinquent child support, if you have delinquent student loans, any type of federal debt, then it will affect your ability. Matter of fact, it most likely will generate an automatic denial. But you will have the opportunity, you can file for an exception, as I mentioned, within 6 months of your denial, and explain your situation. And some of those are getting through. It's a case-by-case basis.
Let's see. You were talking about the amount of estimated loss on the 2202. Is that where they're listing utilities, mortgage, payroll?
Yes.
And in that payroll, is the employer portion of the payroll taxes included?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's look here. There's a question about, are there early payoff penalties if they pay it off? And then if you would address, are there any other fees related to these disaster loans?
There are no fees related to the loans, and there are no penalty for early payoff.
Our
You
personal
also
oh, sorry, go ahead.
You also have the option, they may come back, you fill out the information, and since you're not asking for an amount, they may come back and say, oh, we'll give you a loan for $100,000, but you realize that you may not need $100,000. You have the ability to accept all of that loan, a portion of that loan, or none of that loan. So you're not tied to whatever dollar amount. You can't get more than they offer you, but you can take less, and that's still acceptable.
There's a question about our personal financial statements and requests for tax transcripts for owners of 20% or more still needed.
Each owner that's more than 20% will need to fill out the 4506T and do electronic signature on that. So you don't have to upload a tax transcript, but they will need to access those. If they can't access them through the IRS, then the loan officer may contact you. That's a case by case if they need to access it. But yes, and personal financial statement.
There's a question about, I know Ron mentioned that it was open to nonprofits, but charitable organizations were not part of that. And there's a question here about, what about charitable medical nonprofits?
Ron, chime in here, but the way I understand the difference, if your organization, whether it be profit or nonprofit, if you are bringing money in, then you would qualify. If you just receive donations or grants, that type of thing, and you don't actually bring in any revenue, then you would not qualify.
So this is asking, I know you tried to address the time frame and how long things are taking. Do you have any feedback on how long it has taken for people that have either gotten approved or denied, how long that process has taken?
Well, this program only went live not Monday, but the previous Monday. So we've been in it about 2 business weeks, and there were people that were already approved on Monday, so it took less than a week. And there were also people that received denials within that time frame too. So it is going very quickly.
Let's see what else here. Do you have any update? Are people able to upload forms at this time?
You know, Crystal, that is changing. I'm going to let Ram field that one.
Yeah, I checked this morning, and when you go to the disaster website and click on apply online, it takes you a landing page where it has a list of all the forms that are required, and there is a Dropbox function where you can drop those filled out forms.
Okay. Ron, there's a question about, could you repeat the non-peak times, just in case people miss that?
Yeah, so the non-peak hours are 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Eastern time, basically at night.
Set your alarm.
All right, let me keep scrolling here, make sure I'm not missing anything.
Crystal, I see one that says, are you recommending businesses apply for the current disaster program, even if they intend to apply for the new program under the CARE Act? And I would say definitely yes. You always have the option to not accept this loan if you receive it. And again, it's 12 months of deferred, no interest. So worst case scenario, you have it to fall back on if you would not qualify for the CARE loan, or the time frame on that would be longer.
So there's a question about if people own things in their own name, so they don't have a registered business and the income is showing up on their Schedule C, could they still apply?
Yes, that's a 1099 situation, same deal, do apply.
So just a little clarification, if you're current on your tax installment agreement, should you still apply?
Definitely yes. I would say, Crystal, in every situation, if you don't know if you should apply or not, apply.
If you're married, does your spouse have to be listed on the application if you are the sole owner?
No. I think I see that question. They have a prenup in place.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I don't think that he would need to be listed.
Okay. The application is asking for amount of damages, and I know that's on the physical property. Where on the application do you reflect damage such as payroll, loss of income, etc.?
If it's if you on the application, and Ram, chime in if you have more information on this, but don't click that you have any property damage, and then if you go to the next page, it should give you, I think that's the second page where they're asking for that. If you do click property damage, it's going to take you into a different disaster loan application format. That's not where you want to be.
This is Ram.
Yeah, go ahead, Ram.
The economic injury disaster loan is only for economic injury and not for physical injury like a hurricane or a tornado. So we should avoid all physical damages wherever applicable.
Could you address those businesses who are new to business, and can they apply, and how would they start to reflect their ongoing expenses if they don't have any historical information?
So this is kind of a tricky situation. I was on a call yesterday, If you are a startup, you are eligible to apply. Having said that, if you you will need to present very good projections because what they are looking at, the funds can only be used, you know, in a liability. They're only looking at liability issues. So if you're a startup and you're like, we're needing to get this to get our business going, they're not going to consider any of those types of expenses. They're looking at daily operation.
Would those projections be uploaded as a supporting document then?
Yes. And the more the information, the better in a startup situation, because again, they are moving through these applications very quickly. It's what we're being told. So, so if you are a startup and you apply and you do get denied, again, you have 6 months to apply for an exception.
How is purchases or cash flow used for covering inventory? How do they assess that and look at that?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Yeah, can the funds be used to purchase inventory, and how would they assess the need to use funds to purchase inventory?
That's one of those really gray areas, Crystal. They can submit that as a, you know, as a uploaded as additional information, but I don't think they can reflect that on the 2202.
Okay. All right, make sure I'm not missing. There was, I know, one question somewhere here in the chat, and then I've gotten this from a few clients as well. Have you heard of people getting disconnected on the customer service line? And,
Yes.
and do you know, okay, and how should they kind of go about overcoming that issue?
Ram, do you have more information on that? We're just encouraging them to call back, is what I have been told.
Yes, if we are disconnected, we encourage folks to call them back. They have tremendous volumes. At the same time, we are working, SBA headquarters is working to revamp the customer service team, and we really don't have much information besides keep continually trying.
The biggest disaster we've faced in the past has been a hurricane or a tornado that may have hit 5 or 6 states. And we have all 50 states and some territories eligible for this. Their volume is so tremendous. So we're doing everything we can to make it where customers can reach us, but it's challenging. So just bear with us.
There's a lot of questions in here about how the application process works, and are they using the paper forms or are they not? So can you just go over that one more time as where we stand as of right now?
This is Ram. So the SBA headquarters and the IT department is currently working on the online interactive version of these applications. What you have right now there, if you go to disasterloan.sba.gov, it will take you to a landing page where it lists, it has a list of forms that are required for small businesses. You have to fill out those forms and then upload on the same page. There is a Dropbox option. You would fill out the form and electronically upload those forms. If that is not working, then you still have an option to mail physical copies of those filled out forms. The address for the mailing address is towards the end of that page.
Great.
But we encourage folks to upload it as opposed to sending physical copies.
And there's a question here, what kind of record keeping will be required to show use of funds?
At this point, Crystal, we haven't gotten any information on that. I would just use the same due diligence that you would use with any funds that come into your business. You know, I would encourage them as well to contact you all at SBDC, you know, for further training if they need that on record keeping processes and things like that. Crystal, I'm seeing some questions about the CARE program.
Yeah.
We don't have information on that as of yet, do we, Ram?
No, we do not. I mentioned this at the very beginning of our presentation.
Yeah.
We do not have any information on pending legislations as the information comes down to field offices under the direction from SBA headquarters at an opportune time. If that happens, of course, we will have that webinar. But at this point, we do not have any information at all.
And I'd also just share with everyone that we are working closely with Ram and Lisa at SBA to continue to schedule these ongoing. And so as we do that, as more information comes out that Ram and Lisa have and are able to share, we'll be able to include that in these webinars.
Mm-hmm.
Can previous SBA loans get relief?
If they have had a previous SBA loan or they have one currently, I think that's what you're asking, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They need to be talking to their lender because that it's at that level that deferments and interest only and those type of activities can take place. If they're a disaster loan, it's automatically deferred. But at this point today, and again, we're very fluid, so it may be different in 2 hours. But as of right now, it's all going through the lenders to make modifications to existing SBA non-disaster loans.
How long after you're approved will the funds be available?
Typically, they're saying that those funds are coming to customers within the week is what the information that I got on a call yesterday.
And can you kind of explain how they submit an application and what happens after that process?
Sure. So they apply for the loan, whether it is going online and applying. Hopefully the system would be up. If it's not, doing the electronic submission is going to be your second best. And then if you absolutely can't do that, you can mail it in, but they are strongly discouraging that just because it's going to take longer. And they will review it. An SBA loan officer is going to work with the small business and get a loan decision made. And then they are closing these loans, sending you electronic documents for loan closure and an additional, your initial disbursement is typically being made within days is the information we're getting.
Okay. And I know we're coming up on time. One question I do want to get in there because this came up the other day as well. Can you address the SBA credit elsewhere test that says that the applicant may be ineligible if they have credit elsewhere?
So on a typical SBA loan, you would work with your lender on doing a credit elsewhere test. At this point, those are being done automatically within the SBA approval system. So it's not really something, you know, that the applicant is needing to worry about unless you have a great deal of assets or something. Ram, do you have additional information on that?
Yeah, so the credit elsewhere test relies on the SBA loan application team or the loan officer. Just to provide a hypothetical scenario, if I own a small business, my working capital need each month is $5,000. The SBA would, in general, qualify me for about $30,000 economic injury loan in this circumstance. However, if I have a $300,000 in my checking account, I may not be eligible for this loan.
Crystal, we probably want to mention too, I saw a question about minimum loan amount. There isn't a minimum loan amount, but definitely check with your lender, or if you're needing a smaller amount, we have SBA micro lenders as well. Those might be feasible options for you as well.
Great. Okay, I want to thank you all so much for attending. I hope we answered as many questions. Well, I hope we answered your questions, and we'll continue to take those. I did put a note in the chat that if you have more questions that we were not able to get to, I know that you all are also reaching out to us. You're scheduling appointments, and not everyone can wait for those appointments. So please send any additional questions that you have to us, sbdc@missouri-state.edu, and I will include that in the follow-up email as well. And so we are trying to figure out an efficient way to answer those questions and push those out to everyone. And I'm going to work on that today, and hopefully we'll have something in place either by the end of the day or Monday that we're answering as many as we can and publicly trying to get those answers out to you. So use our email, again, sbdc@missouri-state.edu. We do appreciate everybody taking time to hop on this webinar today. As I mentioned, we'll continue to schedule these and share any updated information that we can as things continue to change really daily at this point. Our office and all of our offices around the state are here to support all of our small business owners. So you can visit both websites that I have up on the screen right now to schedule an appointment with either my team here in Southwest Missouri or any of our small business consultants throughout the state. Ram and Lisa, thank you so much for taking your time to visit with us and continuing to share all of the information that you have.
Thank you, Crystal, for putting this together. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. We are really happy that you had set this up, and like I said, we are providing information as we receive them. It's a very fluid situation, and we'll work with the SBDC network and our local partners to bring that information to you as we receive them. There was one question floating here in the chat box about expansion. You cannot use the proceeds from these economic injury disaster loans for planned expansions. I just wanted to kind of answer that before we leave. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you, guys. To all of our small business owners, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. Reach out and we will help you as much as we possibly can. And everybody stay safe and healthy.